Have you ever noticed how some days everything just feels heavier than it should? Not my life is falling apart or call everyone I know. It's the same job, it's the same house, the same responsibilities that you normally have, but somehow it takes so much more energy to start things, so much more energy to actually care, which is confusing because I didn't add anything to my life. If anything, I canceled a few things and somehow still got more tired. Whenever I notice that feeling, it's usually not because something is missing. It's because something hasn't actually been moving. I remember a few years ago, I didn't necessarily have a breakdown. There wasn't this big moment, this dramatic story that would make everything so much more interesting. Honestly, I wish I did have a breakdown. A little bit. It would be so much easier for me to explain what happened because what actually happened was so much more subtle. It was so much more quiet. I remember just crashing down on the couch in the basement and just sitting there and staring off in the distance. Nothing was wrong. Nothing bad had necessarily happened. There wasn't this big emergency. I just didn't want to do anything. It was like this blanket was just kind of holding me down, sitting on the couch. Now, on paper, life was good. Work was fine. Family was good. I was doing all the things I was supposed to be doing, all the things that as a guy, you're like, I'm responsible for these things. I was doing all that. But everything felt like it took so much more effort than it should. I remember thinking, why does this feel so hard? Why does this feel so heavy? And realizing I didn't have an answer, which is impressive because I have a lot of opinions about a lot of things that I don't understand. What I finally noticed was this: I wasn't exhausted from effort. I was tired from carrying so much internally that I wasn't communicating. I wasn't talking to anybody about it. Now, here's something it took me longer than I'd like to admit to understand. When everything stays internal, the weight multiplies. You get this closed system of your body, and it just builds up this pressure. That's not psychological. That's not mindset. That's just how things work. So it turns out that we're not built to be these self-contained units walking around. When thoughts in our head are not communicated, when concerns that we have stay unspoken, and that pressure never goes anywhere, that pressure builds up, it's got to go somewhere. Our life starts to feel heavier than it should. Now, we usually assume that we need more rest, right? I got to sleep better, or we need more motivation. Let me watch a bunch of alpha male videos and get all pumped up, or I need a better system. Now, sometimes those things can be true. Maybe I do need to get a little bit more motivation. I know that me personally, I certainly can use more rest. Maybe I do need a better system here and there. But a lot of the time, what we actually need is to stop letting ourselves be paralyzed and get moving, communicate about things, have some friction in life, something real, something tangible. That's why our scrolling on our phones feels easier than going and doing anything and starting anything. That's why rest doesn't actually feel restful. That's why even good things in our life that's happening around us can start to feel oddly exhausting. And we're not being lazy in those things. We're not necessarily ungrateful for these things that are happening. Most of the time, it's just that too much is being carried quietly. Now, here's something simple that me, you, anybody else you know can try to just take a step. In the next 24 hours, the next couple of days, write one thing that's been taking more energy than it should. Just one. Not to fix it, not to solve it or create a project around it, just to move it out of your head and onto something real. Naming it is not going to fix everything, but it almost always brings a little relief. And sometimes that relief is enough to get things moving again. And look, if any of this is helpful, it's not going to be helpful for everybody. But if this hit close to home, if this was helpful to you, I'd honestly like to hear from you. Let me know in the chat, what was impactful for you? What's one thing that's been feeling heavier than it should lately? See how many other guys connect with you on that. Now, if you know a guy who's been wearing down and could benefit from hearing anything that I have said, share it with them. You don't have to send them a big sermon or this big speech. You just got to let them know, hey, man, I see what's happening in your life. I want you to know what's happening in my life. We keep saying, I'm good. I'm great. Life is wonderful. When there really is another story to be told. This space is for us as guys to figure stuff out. Nobody's supposed to have it all figured out. But we have a chance without posturing and performing and without putting on a facade like we see all around us, we have a chance to actually get some real work done. That's what this space is for. And I'm glad you're here. Hey, full disclosure, the books you see over on the bookshelf, don't let it fool you. I've read like 2 of those.